Okay, so what I want to do real quick, if you have your laptops open and you've got Visual Studio Code open, if you don't, please go ahead and do that because you're going to need it for this course. Let's go ahead and take a look at week one. Week one, you should have created a GitHub account. Has everyone created a GitHub account? Yeah. Has anyone not created a GitHub account? If you haven't, you probably couldn't even finish all of week one assignments without that. Nor can you do week two assignments without a GitHub account, which some of you probably found out. The other part is infinity free. It looks like the 000 web hosting has some issues, and the AI create a page is blocking the functionality. We're going old school in web development, and some of this new AI tools are trying to help you out, so it's blocking you from the ability of doing that. If you haven't yet, just go over to infinityfree.com and make sure you create an account there. As I said before, we're going to be using Visual Studio Code, we're going to be using Git and GitHub. Has everyone installed Git on your local computer? Okay? Everyone understands how to use it, right? Okay. My recommendation for my Windows users, use Git Bash. That's that terminal that kind of pops up. Use it instead of the command prompt. It'll make your life a lot easier. Okay. Let's see. So this was installing VS Code and creating your first web page. I'm seeing right now only 17 has submitted. This assignment closes on September 11th, so you still have time. So if you haven't submitted your assignment yet, please make sure you go in there and create your web page and submit the requirements. Okay? Same thing for this one. This is installing Git. I'm only showing 15 submitted. So all of you are saying you've done this. This is very basic. Just input the information in here so we can close this out. September 10th, this assignment closes down. Right now, the first 3 weeks, I'm extending things, giving you all the opportunity. Mostly because I was out of touch with you all and not able to be available. But if you have not done this yet, please do it, because the following weeks, the assignments are going to close after 7 days. And I will not reopen them, and you'll get a 0 for it. Okay? It's very important that you stay on task and doing these assignments every opportunity you can. If you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to get behind, and I've had students fail this class, and there's no reason for you to fail it. And the reason they failed it is because they never did their assignments. So if you don't want to do your assignments, you will fail, and I won't be giving you that grade. You're giving yourself that grade. I don't mean to sound harsh, but you must stay on task in doing your assignments. Don't get behind, okay? All right, everyone good? Got to come in like a lion. We'll lighten it up later, but please don't get behind, okay? All right, so installing Git, creating your GitHub account, everyone should have done that. The next assignment was 000 web host or infinity free. I'm showing only 15 have submitted again. I know there's more than 15 in this room. Please make sure you do that. There's also a piece in here about VS Code and FTP configuration. I heard from some of you all in the emails that you're having problems with the FTP integration inside of VS Code. When you go into VS Code, let's just pull it up real quick. Okay, when you go into VS Code, you're going to come up here and go to Settings. I think it's Settings. Wait a minute. Source code, where is it at? It's there. No. All right, where's the plugins at? I forgot where they're at. Do we remember? Appearance. So this should be Git, undebug, extensions. I'm sorry, there it is. All right, so when you're in here in extensions, if you'll go to FTP, and let's bring this out a little bit. I think it's SFTP. There's the Liximomo, right? This used to be the one that everyone used, and now it is deprecated. So you're going to go to this other one, which is forked, and all you got to do is install it. Okay? Make sure you install that particular plugin. Then when you're looking at your source code for these, let's see. Did I do this one for? Let's see here. How do we do this again? Someone want to walk me through it? The FTP plugin. There we go. Thank you. Okay. This one, this is the account. You're going to make sure the host is ftp.infinityfree.com. That's important. And then you're going to choose your username and your password. Okay, and then your path is going to be htdocs, and your autosave is false. I have mine set to false so that not every time I'm saving something, I'm uploading a document, right? I only want to upload it when I'm ready to. And this will force you to get a confirmation message. If you can, real quick, take a screenshot of this with your phones and check and make sure that especially this piece is for your host. Now, of course, I'm using Infinity Free, but make sure that you have this piece set up, okay? If, perchance, with Infinity Free, you have chosen to use a secure FTP, the port for secure FTP is 22, and you have to change the type to SFTP, okay? Any questions? All right. Okay, so that is concerning the plugin. Down here for your username, make sure you input that, and then your password. Okay. All right. So that is that. Let's go back over here. And then the rest of this week are basically readings that you have to do for HTML. I encourage you to do these. You have quizzes each week that are based on your understanding of the HTML. I haven't previewed the quizzes yet. This is a quick check quiz. So those are all saved out on the Cengage site, and then it links them back in. These are going to shut down before too long. Make sure you do them. Okay? Who in here has done them so far? Okay? Have you ran into any issues with the accessing Cengage? We're all good? Okay. If you run into any issues, in previous years, Cengage has been kind of quirky, and last year, Cengage did all of their assignment work within Cengage proper. Now, the quizzes are still done within Cengage, but now all of the homework assignments are linked out to GitHub, and then you do the assignments in GitHub, and it pushes the assignment back. For those who took my Java course, you're familiar with that, because Cengage will force you out to the GitHub site. It will give you the directions, and you have to go through it step by step, and it will not let you finish until you pass the little tests on that page. If you get stuck, okay, if you get stuck, this is where it's important for you to bring your laptop. We're going to sit down together. I'll have time after class every week, and we'll kind of go through it and figure out where you're at. If for some chance you're not able to meet with me after class, and you need to meet with me during the week, we can get together and we can do a private Zoom meeting and go over things. Or if multiple people are having problems, we'll schedule a larger Zoom meeting when you guys are free. Okay? All right, so this was week 1. Any questions about week 1? Okay, let's go ahead and jump over to week 2. Week 2, you're learning this week to basically create the body of HTML. And you're also learning how to link things to style sheets and cascading sheets and things like that. You learned about character sets. Can someone real quick give me a character set? An example. Anyone? Anyone know what a special character is? Okay, so your character sets, these in general are referencing things like the common Latin alphabet. Okay, who is Korean in here? Sunny, and I forgot your name. Hannah. You guys are Korean, and so you know that the character set for Korean is different than English, right? Okay, what about Japanese? Yeah? Any Chinese? Okay, character sets are different. So this is referring to those character sets. Standard character sets are called ANSI, and back 50 years ago when they were working on computers, they only had 125 characters, okay? And those are basically the character sets that we would consider for the English language. Then they realized that, well, we got to blow this up and make it a little bit bigger, so they went to 255. Now they said, well, what about the rest of the world? Like, if you're from a country that speaks Arabic, there is a completely different character set. There's a different character set for Korean, or anyone from Iceland, right? Completely different character sets. So they've gone to things like UTF.
So,
What's that?
I'm saying like Latin, Syrian, Norse.
Yep. Yeah. So the character sets here are referring to things like UTF, which is Unicode text format or something, I think. They've got 8, 16, 32, and so forth. So this is referring to the character sets. Okay, working with inline images, block quotes, and other elements, working with lists. Any questions about these items so far? Any questions? All of this is pretty standard. Anyone in here ever used Microsoft Word or a Google Doc, right? So if you go into a Google Doc and you want to make a bulleted list, right? You know what a bulleted list is. These types of lists in HTML, this is what you're dealing with, whether it's numbered, alphanumeric, bulleted, so forth. You could even do images and so forth. Okay, validating your website. There are sites that you can go to and actually plug in your HTML, and it will validate it and make sure it's following the standards. Okay. What I'm going to do here real quick, we're going to go down to the first assignment. And I want to load this up because this is where some of you all got confused. Who has not been able to do the GitHub assignment yet? Okay, you guys have not been able to. Anybody else? No? Is everyone be able to log in and do the GitHub part? Do you understand what I mean by a GitHub assignment? You click on this link and it's going to say start assignment now. And there's a couple of things here that's pretty important. The ad blockers. If you have any ad blockers, you need to make sure that you allow Cengage. The other thing is that these sites often, when you click on them, it's going to block pop-ups. So you need to tell it right over here in this area, you need to tell it, hey, allow the pop-up, right? And so this is launching GitHub, and it's setting up your code space. And I already clicked on this earlier, so it's going to come up and it's going to ask you, hey, what is your GitHub account? And that's where you have to put in your GitHub account into the system. And then once you get that done, your browser is going to remember it, and it will automatically store the session and the cookies for you to log in and do the assignment. Okay? All right, so a couple of things happening here. We have a GitHub, a Git repository is found in the parent folders of the workspace. We're going to say always, and your application is running on port 3005. That's fine. Open in browser. You're about to access the development port of someone's code space. You're going to say continue. Let's drag this out of the way. See if I can drag that over here. There we go. Okay. So this is giving you some details on how to use it, how to use the code editor, how to run your code, summary, and so forth, right? All right, so this is the description of how you do your assignment, okay? If you tell it to load this into an external window, it's going to do that. We're just going to say continue, and it should also load the companion information right here. But if you need more information, you can always load it into another tab so you can see things more clearly. All right, let's real quick, we're just going to do assignment 1 together, all right? And I'm going to give you the opportunity for you all to speak out and tell me what needs to be done, and we'll work through any bugs or any situations that come up. All right, so first thing first, select Run Code button to execute the program. Well, where's the Run Code button? Does anyone know?
Bottom.
All the way down? All right, so let's click Run Code and just see what happens. Okay. Your application is running on port. Yes, make public. Well, that's not helpful.
Yeah, I think the only problem for me is that.
There we go. All right, so it ran it, and it's displaying the page, which is not very helpful, right? All right, so we'll go ahead and close that. What were you going to say, Akira?
At first I couldn't open it, like it was always saying it's blocked. But I think after I did like 2-3 assignments,
Yeah,
after 2-3 days, then it went.
then it started working. It could be because it's loading all of the JavaScript necessary for this. This code space is they try to mimic what you have in Visual Studio Code. So, but all of this is running in the browser, so it's, yeah. All right, so that's how we run the code. We have to select Calculate Grade button when we're done. And right now, if I click this, my current grade is 0. I don't want to calculate the grade, right? Because that's going to send 0 to my grade in Cengage. That wouldn't be very nice. All right, so let's figure out how we do this. Here are the directions. It says use HTML to create a navigation list of 10 government websites as shown in Figure 146. Well, this is Figure 146, and these are the sites, right? This is just an image, so I have to create this. All right, so coming over here, I'm going to go down to my body tag. I'm going to hit enter. And I want to first, I want to create the heading, right? So task, open the code. And in the comment section, right here, I'm going to enter my first and last name. So you'll go Michael, Rod, you won't type my name, you type your name. Okay, you guys like cheesy dad jokes here. All right, anyways, the date, this is today is 09 05. And 2's 24. All right, so that was my first task. So it's in here. I'm going to click the task, and it's going to validate it. And you can see, well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's spinning right now. It's running the code, and it's going to tell me whether or not I have passed the task, passed the test, or the task, okay? Okay, we can click on feedback, and it's still running. So sometimes these can take a while. And this is kind of important. If you delay your assignments, especially with the Cengage piece, for a week or two, it'll take you a long time to go through assignment by assignment. So do not, please promise me, okay? Do not like sit on this and wait. All right, so green check part is good. It passed the test. It validated. All right, number 2, within the body section of the file, enter the text government sites on the web that marks the text as an H1 heading. All right, so how do I do H1? All right. Does anyone know what just happened? How it did that for me?
It's just for you.
Yeah. This is called Emmet. Emmet is a code completion device, and Emmet will create all of the opening and closing tags. What I mean by opening tag is that, H1, bam, and then so forth. Or you can just use Emmet and just type like that, select it, and you can see it says Emmet abbreviation, and it'll create it for me automatically. Okay, so I created that, and this task is saying I need to have government sites on the web. So I'm going to copy it, paste it in, it's all good, click it, it's doing the task. Okay, let me minimize this one. I don't think we need this one anymore. Okay, and it's going to run that task. If you don't want to sit here and churn through all of these one at a time, my recommendation is just read it and then come on down here and do the next task. So the next one is following the H1, place a list of government websites. All right, so UL stands for what? Does anyone know? Unordered list, very good. Okay, and inside of an unordered list, you have to have a LI, which stands for list item. Okay, so we'll do that. And inside the LI, you need an anchor tag, which is the ahref. Okay, your anchor tags, these are your links on a regular website. Okay, so let's click this. Now here they are. So we're going to basically put USA government. Look at that, it even spell checks it for me. And then inside of here, I'm going to type https://www.usa.gov. Okay? And it needs to display this as it's seen here. So the way you display it is you're going to have to put this parenthesis and the closing parenthesis. Means I'll have to come over here, right? And then right here, do the closing parenthesis. Notice I'm doing this outside of the anchor tag. Does everyone see that? Because the parenthesis itself doesn't need to be hyperlinked. It's only the items inside. So I'm going to copy this piece, paste it in, and so forth. All right, we have that there, but let's go ahead and click Run Code again. So we can just validate and see what we've got going on. Okay, here is the site. I'll click on it, and there it is. It looks like it should look. All right, so this is assignment 1. Any questions so far with assignment 1? Remember, there are no stupid questions. And there's no stupid people either. Okay, but yes.
In the assignment, it's asking to use the navigation tag, but I didn't see it.
So this is a navigation tag right here, the anchor tag. Yeah. And if you get confused with some of this, you can also go up here to Google and just say, HTML, what is a navigation tag? And you'll be amazed what kind of answers it gives you. Here is a nav tag, right? So there's that, right? But usually it's the anchor piece. Does it say navigation tag in this?
The second to last sentence in the first paragraph.
Nested within a navigation. Yeah, very good. Excuse me for my condescending comment there. I was not reading and you caught that for me. Now I just realized what you were saying to me. Will you forgive me?
That's fine.
All right. Okay. So we'll pop in the nav tag. And
Thank you.
there we go. All right, any questions? I'm not going to finish the assignment because that's your all's job, but that is for code assignment 1. When you're done, calculate the grade, okay? And click submit. Do not forget to click submit, okay? Any questions so far? All right. So let's go back to our course. This was week 2. Adding the FTP extension. We talked about that. And I gave you all a little bit of a lecture, a screen recording from last year that went over the same stuff. Let's go ahead and look at week 3. Week 3 is getting into style sheets. How many of y'all know what a style sheet is? Anyone know?
It's like a template.
Yeah, something like that. Let's, where's my mouse at? Here it is. I'm going to go over here and just close this. We'll go to code. Let's see, open folder. Where shall we go with this? Let's go to GitHub. Look at all this code in here from years of teaching. Isn't that crazy? I have to delete this stuff. New folder. Call this week 3 examples. Okay. I'm gonna open that folder. Yeah, I trust myself. All right, so I'm just going to create a simple index.html. Real quick, before we go any further, does anyone know why we call our homepage index.html. Basically, what's happening here, all of the software companies out there in the world, by standard, they settled on 3 names for the default page when you load in a browser. You may have noticed that you go to a browser and you type in www.marianas.edu, and you don't have to put /index.html, do you? But it automatically just loads a page. That's because the default page that's set in the server settings on the servers that are out on the web, especially on Infinity Free and so forth, they all have settled on 3 names, either home, index.html, or default. And you can choose, based on which server you're on, what is going to be the default page. 99.99% of them have all settled on index.html. So what that means is, in the root of any folder, the root of a folder is basically, if I have a folder, right, a directory, the server software is going to look in that folder for any file called index.html. And you cannot have duplicates. You can only have one. So in that folder, if you create another folder, it's going to look in that folder first for the default index.html. So you could have something like this. Say your web page is akira.com, okay? And Akira has a subfolder called My Stuff. Inside My Stuff, as long as there's an index.html, it will load that other index.html. The folder itself has to have an index. And this is why we use index.html. All right, so we have a default page. We're going to do type in HTML. We're going to use the :5, which basically stands for, hey, we're going to make this a HTML5 compliant page. Okay, I'm just going to do that and click Control S to save. A few things about this. We have the document type. We're saying it's HTML. We've specified the default language. EN stands for, does anyone know? English. So if your default page, if you're writing this for the Philippines, you could say, I think it's TG. You have to look at, what is that? No, we're talking about language. Yeah. So in Korea, I do believe it is KR for Korea. But you can also just, I think Visual Studio Code will let you know. Maybe not. Anyways, you can look it up. These can be found on the web pretty readily. The next thing is our head. The head is basically, this is information that the browser uses to interpret the page. So we have our character set, UTF-8, we talked about that. We have in the second meta tag, we have a viewport. This basically says, hey, this page, the window itself is the viewport, and the content is going to automatically go to the device width, and here is the initial scale. So it's going to take whatever you have, and it's going to blow it up to whatever size device you're using it on. You may have noticed on some, you load a web page on your phone, it will blow it up to the size of the page you're on. Okay, that's what that 1.0 means. 1.0 is basically, hey, 100%, right? Okay.
So how
Yes.
to do the shortcut again?
The shortcut, here I'll just take it out. We'll just do HTML:5. Your title. This is what's going to display in the browser window. So for example, up here, you see I've got all of these tabs open, and if I click on it, and I go to inspect the element, you can do this in Opera, you can do it in Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, Internet Explorer, all of them will allow you to inspect. You go up into the head, and you go down to, where are you at? Where's the title? There it is. There's the title. And look at that. That's what displays on the tab. Okay? All right, so we'll go back. So we're just going to call this using CSS. All right? Then we have our body tag. And again, this is kind of rehashing old information for you guys, but the body tag is where all of the content that's visible to the user will be displayed. If you try to put something outside the body tag, it's not going to display on the web page. All right? Okay, so first of all, we'll come in here and we'll say H1, enter. This is my web page attempting to use CSS. We'll use a paragraph tag. Paragraph is the P tag. And I am typing some senseless stuff to fill page space, blah, 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 blah. All right? Okay, so I've got all this. Let's go back to, I'm using Opera here, so I'll go up to File, Open Location, whoops, Open File, excuse me. And I put this in GitHub, and I called this, what did I call this? Week 3 examples, GitHub. Oh my word. There it is. All right. And
That's assignment 1 though.
it is. Where did I save this stuff to?
Try pressing date modified on the Finder.
Let's see. Week 3 examples. Reveal in Finder. I have no idea where it went, but there it is. I'm just going to double click on it, and here is the page. Oh, it didn't put it in GitHub. It put it at the root of my... Alright, doesn't matter. There it is. Okay. Right now, this browser is using the default style. Every browser has a default style that it uses. In fact, you can see what that default style is by clicking Inspect and coming over here and looking at styles. And it tells you that the default style for a paragraph is display block, margin block start, all of this stuff that you're probably scratching your head going, what in the... I don't get it. We're going to get there through this class, okay? In fact, you guys are going to be a master at this by the end of these 9 weeks, 16 weeks, excuse me, okay? So this is the styles, the default style for this. If I right-click on the header and inspect element, you can see over here, here's the H1. This is the default style for it. But this is kind of like, it's kind of blah, 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 right? You really don't like the way it looks. Let's go back and talk about how we can style this. And there's a couple of different ways you can style, or you can include style sheets on your page. You could do it by going into the head, and you could type simply style, and you have an embedded style right there. In fact, you could put a style anywhere you want on the page. I've got a style here, I've got a style there. Here's a style, there's a style. Although you can do it, I don't recommend you put style tags all throughout your code, because the idea in software development is like, I only want to put it in one place and make it available for everything, okay? Similarly, I can put an attribute style, and I can say I am affecting this attribute. I can say I want my font to be Tahoma, separated by a semicolon. Right? Let's just let's reload our page real quick. Oh, that didn't work. Let's go back and what did I do wrong? Oh. Font. Family. There we go. Say Tahoma. Save it. Come out. Refresh. And there is, it changed the title, right? This doesn't make a lot of sense though. Do I really want to put a style attribute on every single thing and then have to repeat myself over and over again? Because what if I create another page, or what if I create another H1 on the page, right? It's not going to help. But this points to something about style sheets. It's called cascading style sheet. So you got to think about it in terms of a waterfall. Anyone ever been to Telefofo on Saipan? It's a secret, right? It's a secret place. Seriously, it is. Don't go there because you'll get in trouble with the owners. It's not on public property. It's private property. But waterfalls, right? It all comes downhill, right? The idea with cascading style sheets is the last style wins. Okay? So you got to remember that. Last style wins. So let's do something here. I'm going to take this out, delete that. We'll go to just this tag right here. We're going to say font, excuse me. We have to specify first. You have to specify first the element that you're going to apply the style to. So this is going to be all H1s. Okay? And we'll say curly brackets, font, family is going to be, and this is a nice thing that Visual Studio Code gives me. It gives me a list of fonts that are useful to use. For most of the time, when you're doing things like this, you want to use a sans serif font. Okay, serif fonts are just like what you see. I've highlighted right here. It says New Times Roman Times, versus something like Arial, which says sans serif. Automatically, think about the difference between Arial and Times New Roman. You all know what the automatic difference of them is?
Yeah, those are 23.
Yeah, those are called serifs. I didn't call it that myself. They did, but the serif is the little curve on the end of it. Your serif fonts have the curvature. So you have like your T and then it kind of goes link, right? It comes down and bink at the bottom. Those are your serifs. Sans serif is, hey, we're getting rid of it. It's just bing, bing, and that's it, right? So you have those different types. Now, in general, most people like to see things that are sans serif. So I'll tell it to use in this order. I'm going to have Arial, Helvetica. After that, choose any sans serif font. I could make it more specific and start it with Tahoma or Trebuchet or something like that. But for right now, that's what it is. If I come over here and I refresh it, and we look at it, I inspect it, there it is. H1 is Arial. That's what it's using. And it's overriding the default style. Okay? All right. So remember, last one in wins. So if I come down here and I do another H1 and I say font, family, and we're going to use Times New Roman. Let's see what happens. What do you think is going to happen? Which one is going to win? Times New Roman, because it's going down, right? The further it goes down, the CSS style on that page is the one it chooses. This is important for you when you're styling your documents, because you want to put general things at the very top. Things that are, you want everything to use, you want it to be at the top. And the more detailed oriented you want for an item, it's more detailed as you go down the page, right? Okay. Any questions so far? These are your style sheets, all right? So now I could also come down here and I could apply further what I did a minute ago. I could say font, family, and let's say I want to use trebuchet. Now, I refresh it, and now I'm using trebuchet because I have specified. I've said, hey, on the H1 itself, I'm going to apply a style. There are some places where it makes sense to do this, but I'm going to tell you, not in this class. Okay? You want to get in a habit of always putting your styles out above the element itself. Okay? Yeah.
If we change the paragraph to H1, then that text would also be changed, right?
Yes. But the better way to do it is just right here, just say paragraph. Or if you want everything to use the same, you can say H1 colon P, comma P, comma, it could be a number of things. And if I take this out, you're going to find something interesting that happens now. This is using a different font than this up here because why? Think about what happened.
What'd you take out?
Well, I'm basically saying H1, comma P to use this style right here. However, the H1 down here is using specifically this style, and this one wins because I've applied it. Now if I take it out, it's a long one, right? I come back over here. Now this is New Times Roman. Does anyone know why? Look at the code again.
Because it's right there. It's not H1.
Yeah. Last one wins, right? Okay. All right. So these are some examples. Let's talk about something else here. We could do, say we have a div. Div is another element that you're going to learn about later. And I could have, let's see, block size of 1.25 EM. This doesn't really matter, but if I want to comment it out, how do I comment something out in CSS? In HTML, if I comment something out, I would do it like so. I would say, this is a comment. And that text doesn't show up on the page, right? Because this is a comment. It's not read.
Is it asterisk?
This right here?
No, for CSS.
Well, in CSS, what you could do, it's like that. Okay. For my Java folks, that may look a little familiar, right? Yeah. So comments. And sometimes in your, the top of your style sheets, you'll need to put a comment. So you could have, right, you could say, the date, the purpose of the style sheet. You could have all that at the top of your style sheet. All right, we've talked about 2 ways of using styles, but there are other ways to include styles here. So what I want you to do now is I want you to come over here in your Explorer window of Visual Studio Code. And you guys see why this is important to bring a laptop, right? Okay, please bring a laptop. I'm going to click up here to create a new file, and we're going to call this style.css. Okay? I have a style sheet, and unlike my HTML, I don't have to specify anything over here. Okay, I could just start typing. So let's go back to our index. Let's say I wanted to affect everything on the page to use a certain font. Look at this real quick and tell me which tag would affect everything on the page. Any ideas?
Head.
No, head only covers,
HTML.
yep, you could use HTML. You could also use body. Now, why would those 2 elements be appropriate for affecting everything on the page? Well, look at it over here. Where is your content going to live?
In the body.
In the body, right? So you could put body and say everything within the body, use these styles, right? Or you could say everything within HTML, use the style. And I don't see any one of these as being wrong. I have seen a lot more style sheets written putting everything in the HTML, okay? So let's just affect a few changes here. Let's say, well, first of all, let's talk about formatting. The common format here is you have the content, space, curly brackets, okay? And just like any coding language like you may use, Java, JavaScript, you want to indent the child element. So here is where I'm specifying the attribute, the very particular style I'm going to use. So again, I'm going to use font family, and I want all of my elements on the page to use Trebuchet. You can choose any font you want. Well, let's look at this real quick. The way this works is with this set, it's designed to use a list. So the font family will expect a list of elements. And lists in CSS are going to be comma separated. So you're going to specify in single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't care, comma, quote, comma, so on and so forth, all the way to the end. And the only reason you're going to use single quotes or double quotes is when it has to do with a font that has a space in the name. Okay? So just like cascading style sheets, the way this works is it reads the opposite direction. Sans serif to Arial to Lucinda to Lucida Grand to Lucida Sans Unicode, all the way to Trebuchet. And basically it means is, hey, do we have this font? No? Okay, we'll use this font. No? Well, then use this font. No? Well, then use this font. All the way down to the last font that's similar in that range. Okay? And then, of course, the very last is sans serif. And if you're ever wondering about fonts like this, you can open up the font book on your machine and you can actually look at all of the fonts. And I believe these will have specified the, let's look at it. I think they should have specified somewhere in the details that these are serif or sans serif. But it's not visible in the font book, so we'll forget about that. All right, any questions so far about style sheets? All right, so I created a style, but over here, it's not necessarily using that style, so I'm going to take this out right here. How do I tell my web page to use that style? Anyone know? Go ahead.
You link it.
I link it. Exactly. Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
That was it.
He's right. You link it. I was trying to see if he wanted to go further with it. Again, Visual Studio Code is making your life easier. When I had to learn this, I didn't have these fancy editors. I had to memorize all of the codes. So type in link and then choose one of these, right? So I'm going to choose link CSS, and it's going to specify the rel. This is the relationship to the document that I'm linking, and it's basically saying, hey, this is a style sheet. And then I am going to have an href, which is very similar to the anchor tag we used earlier. The href is an attribute that says, hey, go find this style sheet. Now, I'm going to take this out. I'm going to show you something, because if you happen to name your style sheet something different than style CSS, you can. There's nothing wrong with naming it anything you want to name it, as long as it makes sense. So what you could do is just put your cursor inside of that, do Control Space, and it is automatically looking in the root directory of index for the style. It's saying, hey, what files are there? And you can just click on it. Okay, too easy. All right, we're going to save it. Let's go back over to Opera. We'll refresh, and now we're using that style. All right, any questions so far? You guys with me? Anyone falling asleep? Anyone bored? Okay, it's gonna
Mine
get,
doesn't work, mine.
you're bored?
No, I said, why,
Oh.
mine doesn't work.
Yours doesn't work? Let's see
It
what you
works,
got.
but mine doesn't.
Let's take a look at what you got. So you got your index HTML. You got your link. So let's do this. Let's go right click on that. Reveal in File Explorer. There's your index. Double click on it. And there's nothing there. Okay? And what did you got in this? Did you use sync tags? Oh, because you haven't saved it. See this little dot here? You guys, on Visual Studio Code, if you see a dot, let me show you on the screen here. FJ, go ahead and look at this. You'll see that mine are X's, right? But now it's a dot. The dot, the white dot, just means it hasn't been saved. So you can go up to File, Save As, or let's just go File, Save. Okay? Or you can do, I think on Windows it's Control S, right? And it'll automatically save it. So once you do that, you come over here
Oh,
and refresh and it'll work.
oh, it doesn't work. There's no circle now.
Yeah, because you saved it. Okay? Now if you refresh your page, it should come up.
Oh, works now.
There you go. All right. Any questions so far? All right, so we looked at different kinds of style sheets. Let's talk about, we've talked about style precedence and inheritance. Let's see, there's one other thing we did not talk about yet. Let's go over here and you can right click, new file, or create another file again. And we're just going to call this extra style.css. Okay. And I'm only creating this just to demonstrate. You wouldn't do it this way unless you have a style sheet that you've imported from another developer. Okay. There's lots of style sheets out there that you can actually work with, pre-loaded style sheets. We'll talk about those later. In this class, I'm going to expect you to type your styles though, okay, you to create them. And then I'll show you later how to import other styles, more unified styles, okay? So let's say that you have some styles out there in another place. Let's go ahead and do HTML. I'm going to say that the color of my text is going to be gray. Okay. Now this is in extra style. Now I'm going to come over to style, and at the top I'm going to type import. Where is it at? Let me look up the command here real quick. Okay, so you're going to have import, and then you're going to specify the URL of the CSS that you're going to import. Okay. This is important if you have a CSS server, a style sheet server. You can have an instance where you want to keep all of your style sheets loaded for organization on a particular server, and then all the sites that you create internally are going to use those style sheets. These are options you have. Okay, so we're going to say I'm going to import the extra style CSS, and this is how you would do it. Okay, so I'll come back over here. Whoops, come back over to Opera, and I'll refresh it. And you can see it works because it has changed the background color, because style.css at the very top is importing extra style. Okay? Any questions? Everyone good? Everyone understand? Okay. So let's go back over here real quick. We've got applying colors. What else do we got? Inline styles, browser extensions, embedded style sheets, inline style sheets. Let me just look at these real quick. Writing style comments, we talked about that. Finding character encoding, we talked about that. All right, color names. So I'm going to go back over here to my extra style. What do you notice about this?
It's a description of the color.
Yeah, it's just a plain description of color. Visual Studio Code gives you lots of different colors that you could use, and these are all predefined, right? All predefined colors. But you're going to notice over here in the right, all of these strange codes. This is hexadecimal. Everyone say hexadecimal.
Hexadecimal.
It's like you're in kindergarten again, right? Hexadecimal. All right, hexadecimal is it's a way of writing numbers that are 16. All right, so I've got 10 fingers. All right, we're used to decimal because it's deca, it's 10. Hexadecimal is 16. Does anyone here have 16 fingers? I didn't think so. All right, so the way you write in hexadecimal, it starts at 0, gets up to 9, and then it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, and then, right? So it gives you the ability, instead of going, because we're used to going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? That's 10-base system. Hexadecimal uses a 16-base system. And these base systems, hexadecimal is based ultimately on binary, because everything is divisible by 2.
I don't get it.
Why hexadecimal is divisible by 2?
No, I don't get
Why they would do that?
it.
It gives you, you can write a very large number with only a few characters. That's the idea behind it. So if I had to write this in binary, it would be way off the page. I mean, it would be almost wrapping around this room if I had to write it in binary. And so computers, that's the fastest way they understand is binary. And when we're defining colors, then we can do it in hexadecimal and make it a lot quicker. All right, hexadecimal works, for colors, it works off the RGB. Anyone know what RGB stands for?
Red, green, blue.
Yeah, red, green, blue. Any color missing there? Yeah, exactly. You guys are thinking about your primary colors, right? And they give you some Crayola crayons and they say, all right, with these 3 crayons, you can make any color, and you put them all together and you make brown, right? You're like, yuck, it's brown. With RGB, it's based off of the light cones in your eye. Okay? All of you have three cones in your eye. You have a red cone, a blue cone, and a green cone. You don't have a yellow cone in your eye. But with those 3 cones, you can simulate any color. When all 3 cones have a 0, in this base right here, okay? I'm just going to select this one. In this base, it's gold. But the RGB, as you can see, is 255, 215, 0. Okay? Or the hexadecimal of that. So, FF is symbolic of the number 255 in decimal. Okay? D7, let's go back and click on this again. D7 is symbolic of 215. And the last one, 0, is symbolic of 0, right? 2 zeros is symbolic of 0. So, think about this real quick. If everything is 255, 255, 255 in RGB or in hexadecimal, FF, 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 what color would that be?
White.
Exactly, it would be white. Because when you max out red and you max out green and you max out blue all together, it produces white. Okay. If you look at your screen and you stared really close, I know you guys would feel really silly pretty quickly here, but you've probably seen it before, like when you've got really close to your computer monitor, you actually see 3 little lines, a red, a green, and a blue. This is because this is the only way your eyes perceive color, through red, green, and blue. And if God would have created you differently, and there are some ladies, believe it or not, who have a 4th cone rod. Did y'all know that?
What color is it?
I don't know, I can't see it.
Good job.
I'm not a lady. But there's just a small minority of ladies that have this genetic anomaly. They're like X-Men, okay? They can see a special color that we can't see. And so my wife, when she goes to get dressed, she'll sit there and she'll match things and match things and match things, and finally say, okay, this looks good, what do you think? And I'm like, we gotta go, right? Gotta get out of here. But there are some ladies, it doesn't matter how close the color matches in their eye, because they actually have this fourth color thing in their eye. They get frustrated and they say, I can't find anything to wear because the colors don't match. And most of you ladies in here probably don't have that. You may feel like you do sometimes when you go to the closet. I don't know, maybe you do have it or not, I don't know. But guys, this is what you have to look forward to sometimes, okay? God bless you. All right. Anyways, this all connects back to RGB, red, green, blue. It's because this is the way you're created. This is the way we are. Our eyes only see in these three colors, and because of it, computer monitors are only designed to show you colors that we can make sense of. All right? When you go to define these colors, if you wanted to make gold, you could mess around with typing. You can mess around typing it like that. You could type hex FFDF00, and that's gold. Or you could type it like, you could do it like this. You could say color is RGB, and then you would specify the number 255 because that's the max, comma 215, comma 00, and that's also gold. Okay. All right. These are the ways you define colors on a computer, and if you think about it, that gives you a lot of color variance. I love the fact that the Visual Studio Code gives me the ability to actually figure out different colors that I could find that match what I'm interested in. I could choose something like that, and there it is. All right. So now I've set that everything on the page is going to be that color. If I come back over here, whoops, I'll refresh it. There we go. The foreground color is that. When you're looking at colors on a page, you can specify also a background color. I'm missing something. There. Background color. And the way you specify background color is exactly like that. You say background dash color. All right? And I could do RGB again. Let's just try to be creative here. Let's do, let's see, R is the red. So I'm going to do something around 100 for red, which I don't know what that would be. Maybe A? Or A3? Maybe? All right, then for, that's red, and then for the green, let's do an FF, and then for the red, green, blue, for the blue, let's do an A3. And that gives us something like that, a green. Okay, so I've specified a background color of that. When I come to the page, you get something that looks really weird, right? But we're getting the ability to understand the color values. All right. There's one other color type you can use. You could also use what's called RGBA. Does anyone know what the A stands for? That is your opacity. It's how transparent it is. So let's do, we'll do 98, we'll do 98 again, and 98, That's that's yucky. Let's do 0. That's still not very pleasant. 37? Oh, let's choose a different one. Those colors are weird. Let's do that one. All right, so you can do that, but then we need to apply the opacity. The opacity is a number in between 0 and 1, I believe. Let me look it up again. Let's see, RGB, a example. Yeah, it's a number between 0 and 1. So you're going to use something like 0.3. It's your level of transparency. Now, it's not going to make much sense. Let's see. You've got to save it first. There we go. It's not going to make much sense to do that here. But as you can see, there's a bit of transparency on it. And if let's do this. Let's do it over here. Where are you at? Background color, here it is. I can edit this value. No, it won't let me. We'll just do it over here. We'll bring this up to 9, save it, and refresh. And you can see it's actually getting closer to the true value. If I do 1, which is 100% non-transparent, and refresh, there it is, right? We can take the opacity all the way down to 0 and save it. And what do you think will happen? It's white. Because the default is white for the page, and so the transparency is to the point where it sees through completely. There's no filtered color on it. Okay? All right, any questions so far? Those are your colors. You're also going to learn about HSL colors. We talked about opaqueness already, setting text, and so forth. There's another topic, and that is progressive enhancement. And progressive enhancement means that you're creating a page that will work. It will fail back to the default value. So that's what progressive enhancement ultimately means. But I want you to spend some time reading this, because this is a topic that's actually very important for a lot of different programming. Who was in my Java? You were in my Java class. You were in it. Mark. Anybody else? Okay. We didn't talk about progressive enhancement in that class, but it's an important idea of being able to make things backward compatible. Okay. So it's an important topic. All right. Any questions so far? All right. Let's talk about other selector patterns. We've got about 1 minute left, because I think it's actually the end of class already. All right. Real quick. So far in our style, we've talked about HTML, we've talked about H1s, we've talked about, right? These are all standard tags, but you can also have other ways of specifying an element. And if you look at an index real quick, you could specify based on the attribute selectors. So inside of a paragraph tag, you've got all of these attributes that are available. So for example, I could have an attribute called ID, and I could specify this and say my paragraph. Let's do it like this, my dash paragraph. Okay? I've given it an ID like that. Over here in on the style, if I want to specify by ID, I use hashtag, and then actually use the name of that ID. So my dash paragraph. Same ID again, But now I'm only aligning to that particular attribute. If I go to use something like a style, I could also create on here and use what's called a class. And a class is often used to represent multiple things across the page. So you could say my paragraph or my para, okay? And on the style, you would use dot for classes. So my dash para. And if we try to affect the color here of that, we could use, let's just use gold. Save it, come back over to Opera, and you can see that it's picked up the class name. So there's a lot of different ways you can actually address styles. You can address it through the ID, through the class name, or you can do things through attributes, specialized attributes. Like you could use, tell you what, we're out of time, but there are all kinds of attributes that you can actually specify for your style sheets. All right, guys, we'll do the reading this week. If you have questions with the assignments, I will respond. I'm showing for week 1, week 2 so far that only 15 have done them. Please don't get behind. It's very, very important, okay? And I'm available for a few minutes after class if you guys need to ask any questions. All right? Let me,
You're gonna go over there?
no, I can stay right here for a few minutes. Yes. Is there a class coming in?
Yeah.
Those coming in?
So I want to have a result.